Snow was falling heavily outside the damaged research station. The howling wind shook the metal walls, and every few minutes, a deep groan came from somewhere in the structure. Inside, the air was freezing, and the emergency heaters were barely keeping the cold away. Captain Marcus Hale sat wrapped in his thermal sleeping bag, staring at the frost creeping over the window. He had been stuck here for 2 days since the shuttle crash, surviving on ration packs and melted snow. That night, something strange happened. The metal door at the far end of the room creaked open, and a figure stepped inside. Marcus tensed, ready to reach for his sidearm, but then he froze. The figure was not human. She was tall, slender, and her skin glowed faintly with a soft orange light, as if warm embers lived beneath her surface. Long white hair fell over her shoulders, and her large eyes shimmered like molten gold. She looked at him with a mix of fear and exhaustion, her breath misting in the cold air. Marcus had seen alien life before, but never one like her. Her features were delicate, almost fragile, yet there was a strength in the way she held herself. She shivered as she stepped closer, her arms wrapped around her body. Her clothes were thin, clearly not made for this environment. He could see the frost collecting on her hair. She spoke, her voice soft but unsteady. The words were unfamiliar, but the tone was clear. She was pleading. Marcus slowly lowered his weapon and tried to speak calmly. "You're freezing," he said, pointing to the glowing sleeping bag around him. She tilted her head, not understanding his words, but her eyes followed his gesture. The room grew colder with each passing minute. He could see her legs trembling from the cold, her glowing skin flickering dimly. He knew if she stayed like this, she wouldn't survive the night. Marcus took a deep breath, unzipped part of the sleeping bag, and gestured again, more clearly this time, patting the empty space beside him. She hesitated, her eyes narrowing slightly. For a moment, Marcus thought she might refuse. But then, as another shiver ran through her body, she stepped closer. Her movements were slow, cautious, as if she wasn't sure whether this was a trap. When she was finally near enough, Marcus could feel the strange warmth radiating from her body, even though she was cold to the touch. She knelt down beside him, still hugging herself, and looked into his eyes with uncertainty. Marcus pulled the sleeping bag open wider, inviting her in. She slipped inside, and the warmth of the thermal lining wrapped around both of them. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the wind outside and their slow, uneven breathing. Marcus could feel her trembling start to ease, though her glowing skin still pulsed faintly. Her golden eyes watched him closely, as if studying his every move. He realized then just how strange this moment was. Two beings from different worlds, sharing the same small space for survival. She seemed to relax slightly, her posture softening. He noticed the faint patterns in her glowing markings, almost like shifting constellations across her skin. Eventually, she spoke again, this time more softly, the words flowing like music even, though he couldn't understand them. Marcus simply nodded, hoping his expression showed he meant no harm. She studied his face for a long time before finally letting her head rest lightly against his shoulder. The storm outside grew stronger, the walls rattling under the force of the wind. Marcus knew they would be stuck here for hours, maybe all night. He felt the strange rhythm of her breathing, slower now, steadier. Her warmth, though faint, was unlike anything he had ever felt. As the minutes passed, a thought began to form in his mind. She was not just a survivor like him. The markings on her skin, the way she had appeared from the restricted wing of the station, there was more to her story. Something dangerous, maybe even forbidden, was tied to her presence here. But for now, all he could do was keep her alive. He adjusted the sleeping bag so it covered her fully, and when she looked up at him again, there was something new in her eyes. Trust. Neither of them spoke for the rest of the night. They sat in silence, listening to the storm rage outside, bound together by a fragile moment of shared warmth. Marcus didn't know it yet, but this simple act would set off a chain of events that neither human nor alien could have imagined. The storm had not stopped by morning. A pale, cold light filtered through the frosted window, casting a faint glow across the cramped room. Marcus woke first. The alien girl was still beside him, her head resting lightly against his arm. Her breathing was steady now, but her skin's faint orange glow was weaker than before. Carefully, he shifted to sit upright without waking her. His mind was already busy with questions. Who was she? How had she ended up in this ruined station? And why had she come to him instead of anyone else? The restricted section she emerged from still weighed heavily on his thoughts. That part of the station was sealed by the research team before they evacuated. Whatever was inside, it wasn't meant to be found. A soft sound made him glance down. She was awake, her golden eyes blinking slowly. She looked at him, then at the cold room around them, and finally at the sleeping bag she was still wrapped in. Her expression changed something between gratitude and hesitation. Marcus tried to speak slowly and clearly. "We can't stay here," he said, pointing toward the door. He knew she didn't understand his words, but maybe she would understand the meaning in his movements. She followed his hand, then nodded once. She stood, moving with a grace that seemed unnatural in such a freezing environment. Marcus noticed her feet bare against the icy floor. He motioned for her to wait, rummaging through his gear until he found a pair of insulated socks. He offered them to her, but she hesitated, her gaze flicking from his face to the socks. Slowly, she reached out and took them, slipping them on. The way she looked at him then was different, like she was testing the boundaries of trust. They packed quickly. Marcus carried his gear, and she took nothing but a small metallic object she had been holding when she entered the room the night before. It was no bigger than his palm, glowing faintly in the same orange hue as her markings. She kept it close, never letting it out of her hand. When they stepped outside the room, the corridor was bitterly cold. Frost covered the walls, and icicles hung from the ceiling. Marcus led the way, his boots crunching on the thin layer of ice that had formed overnight. She followed silently, her bare legs somehow unaffected by the cold. They passed broken doors, overturned equipment, and the remnants of a once busy station, now silent as a tomb. Every sound echoed. Marcus knew the place had been abandoned in a hurry, but the deeper they went, the stranger it felt. There were no signs of bodies, no personal belongings left behind, just emptiness, as if everyone had simply vanished. Halfway through the corridor, she suddenly froze. Her eyes widened, and her markings flared brighter for a brief second. She raised her hand, signaling for him to stop. Marcus obeyed, scanning the hallway ahead. That's when he heard it, a faint metallic scrape, like something dragging along the floor. He tightened his grip on his sidearm, motioning for her to stay behind him. They moved slowly, every step measured. The sound grew louder, closer. At the far end of the corridor, a shadow moved. Marcus's pulse quickened. Then it emerged, a maintenance drone, its body dented and covered in frost, sparking occasionally from damaged circuits. Its movements were jerky, unnatural. It scanned the hallway, its optical sensor glowing red. Marcus knew this model, it wasn't supposed to be here. The research station's drones had all been recalled before the evacuation. This one was wrong. The drone stopped, its sensor locking on them. Marcus didn't wait. "Move!" he shouted, even though she couldn't understand the word. She seemed to understand the urgency, because she darted behind him as the drone surged forward with surprising speed. Marcus fired 2 shots. The round sparked off its metal shell, but didn't slow it much. The girl's markings flared again, brighter than before, and she raised the small metallic object in her hand. A pulse of light shot from it, hitting the drone directly. It froze mid-charge, its red sensor flickering before it collapsed with a heavy thud. Marcus stared at the smoking wreck, then at her. She was breathing harder now, her glow dimming again. Whatever she had done had cost her energy. She tucked the object back into her grip and motioned for them to keep moving. They pushed forward, deeper into the station. The air grew warmer as they neared the central hub, but it wasn't comforting. The hum of machinery echoed through the walls, and faint vibrations ran under their feet. Marcus realized then someone, or something, was still running parts of the station. And judging by the look in the alien girl's eyes, she already knew. She stopped suddenly at a sealed bulkhead. Her hands pressed against the metal, and her markings glowed faintly. Marcus watched as the lock released with a hiss. She looked back at him once, her expression unreadable, before stepping through. He followed, not knowing that beyond this door, his understanding of the station and of the girl was about to change completely. The room beyond the bulkhead was unlike the frozen corridors they had just walked through. It was warmer, the air faintly humming with energy. Dim orange light pulsed from lines running along the walls, matching the color of the alien girls. Glowing markings. Marcus stopped just inside the doorway, scanning the chamber. It was circular, lined with strange alien machines that seemed to be part of the station, but unlike anything human engineers would build. At the center was a large, upright pod sealed, with frost slowly melting from its surface. The girl moved toward it, her steps quickening, as if she knew exactly what it was. She placed both hands on the pod's surface. Her markings brightened, and the lines on the walls glowed stronger in response. The pod hissed, steam rising as the seal began to release. Marcus stepped closer, his hand hovering near his weapon, uncertain whether he should stop her or let it happen. The pod opened, slowly, revealing a second alien, smaller, frailer, and barely conscious. Its skin was the same ember-like hue, but its glow was faint, flickering like a dying candle. The girl's expression changed instantly. The caution she had shown toward Marcus was gone, replaced by urgency and fear. She spoke rapidly in her language, her tone sharp and commanding. Marcus couldn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. This one was important to her. She reached inside and lifted the smaller alien with surprising strength. The figure was so weak it could barely hold its head up. Marcus noticed the smaller alien's breathing was shallow. Whatever was wrong, it was serious. He glanced at the girl, then at the pod, realizing what might have happened. They had been keeping this one in stasis, maybe for protection, maybe for survival. And the storm or the crash had damaged the systems. The girl turned to him, speaking quickly, gesturing toward the corridor they had come from, then toward the far wall where another sealed door stood. She was asking for help. Marcus nodded once. All right, let's move. They approached the far door, but before they could reach it, a sudden alarm blared. Red warning lights flashed across the chamber, and the hum of the machines deepened into a low, threatening roar. Marcus's instincts told him they had been detected, not just by station systems, but by something else. He motioned for her to stay behind him, but she shook her head, gripping the small, metallic device tightly in one hand while holding the smaller alien in the other. The sealed door ahead slid open, not because they activated it, but as if someone else had. Two figures stepped through, both wearing heavy exosuits. Their helmets were tinted, hiding their faces, but Marcus recognized the design. They were corporate security. Not military, not rescue. That meant they were here for something else entirely. One of them pointed directly at the alien girl and spoke through a cum filter. Target acquired. Marcus's gut tightened. They weren't here for him. They were here for her. Before he could react, the first guard raised a weapon. Marcus lunged forward, pulling the alien girl to the side as the shot hit the wall, sending sparks into the air. She clutched the smaller alien tightly, shielding them with her own body. Marcus fired back, forcing the guards to take cover. "We need to move," he shouted, even though she wouldn't understand the words. He gestured toward a side passage, and she followed instantly. They ran, weaving between alien machines, the security guards in pursuit. Energy bolts streaked past them, scorching the walls. Marcus's heart pounded, not just from the chase, but from the realization that this girl, whoever she was far more valuable than he had imagined. They reached another door, this one partially open. Marcus shoved it wider, and they slipped. Inside, the room was smaller, darker, with strange cables snaking across the floor. The hum of machinery was louder here, almost like a heartbeat. The girl set the smaller alien down gently on a flat platform, her glowing markings flickering. She pressed her palm to the platform, and it lit up, a soft orange glow spreading beneath the frail figure. Marcus watched as the smaller alien's breathing steadied, their glow brightening just a little. She looked up at him then, her golden eyes locking with his. There was no language between them, but he understood the message, "Thank you." The moment was short-lived. The sound of heavy boots echoed in the corridor outside. The guards were closing in. Marcus checked his weapon, half a magazine left. He didn't have enough firepower for a drawn-out fight. The girl picked up the metallic device. Again. This time when she activated it, the walls themselves seemed to respond. The glow in the room pulsed once, then the lights dimmed entirely. A low vibration rolled through the floor, and Marcus felt the air shift as if the whole station was coming. Alive, somewhere deep in his gut, he knew they had just crossed a line. Whatever she had triggered wasn't just a fence. It was something far bigger, and whatever was coming next. No one in the station would be ready for it. The floor trembled under their feet. Faint orange light ran through the cables like liquid. Fire, spreading out in all directions. The hum of the station deepened into a low rhythmic thrum, and Marcus felt the air grow warmer. The alien girl stood still, her markings glowing in sync with the cables. She seemed almost connected to the station, as if her very presence was waking it up. The smaller alien, lying on the glowing platform, opened their eyes slowly. They whispered something weakly, and the girl replied in a tone so soft Marcus barely heard it. Outside, the heavy footsteps of the corporate guards slowed. They must have noticed the sudden change in the station. Then, the faint metallic creak of their weapons being raised echoed from the corridor. Marcus tightened his grip on his pistol. The girl turned toward him. She pointed to the smaller alien. Then to him, then to the door. Marcus understood she wanted him to take the weak one and run. He shook his head instantly. "Not leaving you here." Before she could argue in her own language, the door burst open. The two guards stormed in. Weapons ready. Marcus dove behind a piece of machinery, firing 2 quick shots. One guard fell back, armor sparking, but the other pressed forward. The girl didn't move away. Instead, she raised the metallic device again. A pulse of light shot outward, striking the guard's chest. The blast was silent but powerful. The man flew backward into the wall, his weapon clattering to the floor. Marcus blinked, realizing her weapon wasn't just energy-based. The air itself felt charged afterward, like the moment before a storm breaks. But before he could speak, the floor vibrated harder. Somewhere deep in the station, metal groaned like a sleeping giant waking up. The hum became a roar, and the walls shifted slightly. Marcus realized with a cold jolt that the station itself was moving. The girl stepped toward a console on the far side of the room. Her hands danced over glowing symbols Marcus had never seen before. The lines of light in the cables brightened until the whole room glowed like dawn. The smaller alien was now sitting up, their glow returning bit by bit. Marcus crouched beside them. "What is she doing?" he muttered to himself. The smaller alien met his eyes, and for the first time, spoke in halting but understandable English. "She calls the heart." "The heart?" Marcus repeated, his voice low. The smaller alien nodded weakly. "The station is not station. It is Vessel, oh Vessel, her people's last refuge. Marcus's mind reeled. This entire research station wasn't a human construction, it was alien, ancient, and alive in ways human technology couldn't match. And if she was calling something, it meant more than just activating defenses. Suddenly, the walls shook violently, knocking Marcus off balance. Through the door, he could see the corridor outside was no longer empty. More corporate troops were advancing, at least 6 this time. The girl looked back at him and spoke firmly in her language. She pointed to the smaller alien again, then to an exit hatch in the corner. Marcus hesitated, torn between following her instructions and staying to protect her. Then something happened that made the decision for him. The floor split along glowing seams, and from the cracks, panels lifted to reveal strange structures, tall, spindly towers of light and metal that rose like the bones of a giant creature. The entire room began to tilt slightly, and Marcus realized the station was turning. Troops outside stumbled, their formation breaking. The girl seized the moment, raising her device and firing another blinding pulse. The blast ripped through the doorway, forcing the soldiers to scatter. Marcus grabbed the smaller alien, helping them stand. They were light, fragile in his arms, but their golden eyes were fixed on the girl. She gave them a brief nod before turning back to the console, her hands moving faster. The hum of the vessel grew louder until it was almost deafening. Then, through the vibration, Marcus heard something else, a deep, distant sound like a heartbeat. The smaller alien spoke again, their voice urgent. When the heart wakes, nothing can stop it, not even them. Marcus didn't know what that meant, but he knew the corporation wouldn't give up easily. They would keep coming, no matter the cost. And somehow, he was now standing in the middle of a fight that was far bigger than survival in a storm. The hatch to the side opened with a hiss, revealing a narrow tunnel lit by that same pulsing orange glow. Marcus started toward it with the smaller alien, but before stepping through, he looked back. The girl met his eyes one last time, her expression fierce yet calm. She said something in her language, words he didn't understand, but the tone was clear. "Trust me." Then the tunnel door slid shut between them, and the hum of the vessel deepened into a steady, unstoppable rhythm. Asterisk. The tunnel sloped downward, the walls pulsing faintly with the same orange light that ran through the alien girl's markings. Marcus moved carefully, the smaller alien leaning against him for support. The hum of the vessel was louder here, echoing through the narrow space like a heartbeat that came from all directions. The air was warmer and carried a faint, metallic scent. Every few steps, the tunnel opened into small chambers lined with alien panels and devices Marcus didn't recognize. The smaller alien seemed to know the way, pointing weakly toward certain paths whenever the tunnel split. "Where are we going?" Marcus asked quietly, even though he didn't expect an answer. The smaller alien's voice was faint but clear enough. "Safe chamber, near the heart." Marcus had heard that word before. The heart, whatever it was, it had to be important. If the girl was risking herself to wake it. He thought of her standing in that glowing room, surrounded by corporate troops, and his jaw tightened. He didn't like leaving her behind. They reached a larger chamber, its ceiling arched high above them. Strange alien machines rose from the floor, glowing softly. In the center was a wide platform surrounded by a ring of vertical beams. The smaller alien motioned for him to help them onto it. As soon as they stepped onto the platform, the beams lit up one by one. The hum deepened, and a gentle vibration ran under their feet. Then, without warning, a projection appeared in the air before them. It wasn't a map or symbols. It was a scene of vast black void dotted with countless stars. In the center was a glowing shape, massive and alive, its surface pulsing like a living heart. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Marcus stared at it, feeling as though it was staring back. "That is the heart," the smaller alien whispered. The last worldship of our kind, Marcus frowned. Worldship? The alien nodded slowly. Not ship like yours. It lives. It carries all that remains of us. This place, part of it, sleeping. For many cycles. Marcus's chest tightened, and she's waking it up. Yes, the alien said. But waking it will call others, and your enemies. Before Marcus could ask what others meant, the platform shook violently. The projection flickered, then vanished. The hum of the heart became urgent, as if the vessel itself sensed danger. Somewhere above, a muffled boom echoed through the metal. The smaller alien's eyes widened. A breach. Marcus didn't need translation. The corporation's troops had found another way in. He stepped off the platform, checking the magazine in his pistol, only a few rounds left. Where do we go? The alien pointed toward a narrow passage on the far side of the chamber. They moved quickly, Marcus glancing over his shoulder every few seconds. The glow of the walls pulsed faster now, like a quickening heartbeat. The passage curved sharply before opening into another chamber, this one darker, the air heavy with the smell of ozone. In the center was a massive vertical structure, glowing faintly like molten metal. It wasn't machinery in the human sense. It looked grown, like the inside of some living creature's body, yet it was clearly artificial. Marcus could feel its heat from meters away. This is it, the smaller alien whispered. The heart's core. Before Marcus could process it, a burst of gunfire tore through the air. Sparks flew from the wall beside him, and he ducked instinctively. Corporate troops poured into the room from a high ledge, their weapons trained on the core. One of the soldiers shouted, "Secure the asset. Destroy." The rest, Marcus fired back, forcing them to take cover. But there were too many. He could see 2 squads, heavily armed, and he knew it was only a matter of seconds before they overwhelmed him. Then the temperature in the chamber shifted. A deep, resonant tone filled the air, vibrating in Marcus's bones. The vertical core brightened, its light spreading into the floor and walls. From the shadows on the far side of the chamber, she appeared. The alien girl. Her markings were blazing like fire, her eyes locked on the soldiers. She was breathing hard, her stance unshaken, dot in her hand. The metallic device pulsed with light. She spoke a single word in her language, and the entire chamber responded. The floor rippled like liquid metal, rising into sharp, crystalline spikes between them and the troops. The soldiers opened fire, but the spikes absorbed the shots, glowing hotter with each impact. The girl raised the device high, and the vertical core flared so brightly, Marcus had to shield his eyes. The smaller alien stepped forward, their voice trembling but strong. She binds to the heart. She becomes its voice. Marcus realized. Then this wasn't just about survival. She wasn't simply protecting them. She was taking control of something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. And every soldier in that room had just become a witness the corporation could never allow to live. The chamber was alive. The glow from the heart's core was no longer steady. It pulsed in time with the alien girl's breathing. Her markings blazed so brightly they seemed carved from molten light. The crystalline spikes she had summoned twisted and shifted, forming a protective barrier that kept the soldiers pinned on the far ledge. Marcus could barely believe what he was seeing. She wasn't just connected to the heart, she was becoming part of it. Every movement of her hand sent ripples through the floor. Every word she spoke made the walls respond like a living creature. The smaller alien stepped closer to the core, their voice urgent. She calls the heart to rise. If she succeeds, nothing here will remain the same. The soldiers tried again to break through. They lobbed explosives over the barrier, but the heart reacted faster, creating a shimmering shield of light that swallowed the blasts. One soldier, braver or more foolish than the rest, leapt down from the ledge, landing hard. He raised his weapon toward the girl. Marcus didn't hesitate. One clean shot dropped the man before he could pull the trigger. His pistol clicked empty. Immediately after, he had no more rounds left. The girl turned her head briefly toward him, her golden eyes meeting his for just a second. It wasn't fear or thanks in her gaze. It was certainty, as if she already knew what she had to do, and that nothing would stop her. The floor shook violently. From somewhere deep below, a massive low boom rolled upward like thunder. The smaller alien's voice trembled. The heart wakes. The chamber's walls began to split along glowing seams. Through the gaps, Marcus could see blinding light like sunrise breaking through darkness. The heat rose, but it wasn't unbearable. It was warm, steady, almost comforting. The soldiers realized too late that they were no longer in control of the fight. One of them screamed into a cum unit for extraction. But before the words could finish, the ground beneath them split open. Streams of pure orange light shot upward, engulfing them in a wave of force. When the light faded, the ledge was empty. Marcus stared. There were no bodies, no weapons, nothing. Just smooth, glowing metal where they had stood. What happened to them? He asked. The smaller alien answered quietly. The heart does not kill, it absorbs. The girl stepped away from the core, her device now dim in her hand. She looked exhausted, but her glow was still strong. The heart's core continued to pulse, but the vibrations through the floor softened. The vessel was no longer waking, it was awake. From above, a deep rumble shook the air. The entire chamber tilted slightly, and Marcus felt the strange sensation of rising, even though there were no visible windows. Somewhere far beyond, the heart was lifting itself from whatever frozen ground it had been buried in. A new light filled the room, golden and pure. Panels in the walls slid open to reveal enormous viewports. Through them, Marcus saw the snowstorm outside. And then the sky itself. The vessel was breaking free, climbing higher, leaving the icy world behind. He turned to the girl. "Where are you taking this?" She didn't answer in words. Instead, she touched his chest lightly, her fingers warm against his skin, then pointed toward the stars. Her meaning was clear. They were leaving this planet, maybe this system, for somewhere far beyond. The smaller alien approached Marcus. She will protect the heart now, but the heart will protect her too. You came here by chance, but now you are part of it. Marcus looked at the vast alien vessel around them, the living technology, the raw power he had just witnessed. He thought about the corporation that had tried to take it, and what they might do if they ever found it again. "Then we make sure they can't follow," he said firmly. The girl seemed to understand. She placed the metallic device in his hand. The glow within it was faint, but steady. She nodded once, as if entrusting him with something vital. The viewport, Marcus saw the last of the planet's atmosphere fall away, revealing the infinite black of space. The vessel moved with a grace no human ship could match. Silent yet unstoppable. The smaller alien's voice was quiet but certain. From one act of warmth, a bond is made. And bonds like this change worlds. Marcus glanced at the girl one last time. She was looking out at the stars, her golden eyes reflecting their light. She didn't look like someone he had saved. Anymore, she looked like someone who could save him, too. The heart's glow filled the chamber, wrapping them in its warmth as the vessel vanished into the darkness between the stars, carrying with it the three of them and a future neither human nor alien could have imagined.